I'm trying to do something better for myself. The government says, we don't care. You can't use our money to do that. Now, how ridiculous is that?
Wow, guys, can you believe it? We're already over 20 episodes into Nick Speaks, but here's the truth. I couldn't have done it alone. The amazing team at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions has been with me every step of the way, from those early strategy sessions all the way to editing, promotion, and even helping me land guests. They've made it so all I have to do is show up, record, and focus on delivering the message. Kyle at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions tailors everything to your unique needs and is so creative to give you what you're looking for. But one thing's for sure, he gives 110% to help you create an incredible podcast. So if you've ever thought about starting your own podcast, now's the time. Hit the link in the show notes, set up a strategy session with Kyle, and get ready to take your podcast to the next level. Trust me, you won't regret it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest installment of the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I'm your host, Nicolas Comstock. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode of Nick Speaks. I'm so glad that you're all here. You're going to want to tune into this episode today because this specifically has to deal with benefits analysis, employment, and people with disabilities wanting to own their own business. I'm going to tell you some things that I just went through this week. And you know what? To be honest with you guys, I am convinced that our United States government does not want people with disabilities to get off the system. They don't want people to get off the system, period. And I'm going to explain why I feel that way, what I went through this week. So call your friends, send this episode to your friends that are disabled and trying to start their own business or just trying to get a job in the community. They do not want to miss this episode. So I'm going to jump right in. At the end of last week, guys, I went through what is known as a benefits analysis. And that is to determine how much money you're able to make while still keeping your benefits, such as like your Social Security, your Medicaid, your Medicare, your waivers, if your state has disability waivers, which most of them do. Some of them, like the state of Ohio, we're still run by county boards here. There are 88 counties. And so we're still run by county boards. But so, yeah, that is what a benefit analysis is. That is what a benefits analysis is. It is to determine how much money you can make while still keeping all of your benefits. And so that is what I went through this week. And let me tell you, like I said, I'm convinced that the government wants to do everything in their power to keep people with disabilities poor and on their dime. And they really don't want you to be successful, in my opinion. Let's jump into this. So let's say that you're working a standard job, and you're making $10 to $12 an hour, 20 hours a week. You have to report your first $65 that you make. Now, I believe this is for whether you're starting your own business or whether you're working in the community. You have to report your first $65 that you make to Social Security. Now, I think this is absolutely ridiculous, not because I'm not for hiding things from Social Security or I don't want to report extra income. I simply think that $65 is barely a drop in the bucket, and it shouldn't affect anything. See, what happens is the moment you make your first $65 and you report it to Social Security, then your SSI income begins to go down after you make your first $65 and you report it to Social Security. I think this amount needs to be much higher, maybe in the part of between $300 and $500, because like I said, $65 is barely a drop in the bucket. And the whole benefits analysis that I went through this week was totally about how to keep your benefits and how much money you can make and blah, blah, blah before you lose your benefits. And honestly, guys, like I've said in previous episodes, I'm not interested in that. I want to get off all of the government system. I want to be self-supporting, whether that's paying all my caregivers, paying for my medical insurance, paying for everything. You say, Nick, what are you trying to do? Be a multimillionaire? Yes. And I'm going to die trying, because I believe that I am made for much more than just to receive a little $900 check every month, then and then just to sit at home. I believe I'm made for much more than that. And be honest with you, I received less than a $900 check. I received $788 from the Social Security SSI. And then I'm also on, which is called, I'm also on a program called SSDI, which is Social Security Disability, and I received $199. So altogether, I think I received about, I would say maybe 1,100, something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not really good at math. So I went to special ed. So I received $780 at the first of every month. And then on the third of every month, I received $199. That's from a family member's retirement. And that's known as Social Security Disability. Like I said, the $65 threshold really needs to change. It really needs to be put up between the area of $300 and $500, because I really think that is when the drawbacks should begin, is when somebody with a disability is making between $300 and $500 a month. And it should not be, well, okay, you made $300 this month, so now we're not going to pay you. Like in my position, like I'm a contractor. That's what I'm looking at myself as. So I may not make $300 to $500 every month. I only may make that once a month or once every 6 months. So in my opinion, if I only make that once a month or once every 6 months, that should not take away from my Social Security, SSI, and SSDI benefits. Now, there might be some people out there that disagree with me. That's okay. That's the beauty of America. You can disagree with me all you want. But this really does need to change. I think it's ridiculous. There's a lot of things in the benefits analysis I didn't understand. I couldn't even tell you. I mean, it was an hour long. It was a lot of information. And I was ready for my head to explode by the time this is over. Another thing I have to tell you guys, and I don't know if you're aware of this, I've been told several times by several different people, you as a person with a disability, if you say, I want to start my own business, did you know that allegedly you can't start your own business with your own SSI money? With your own Social Security money? You can't start your own business. So if you say, I'm trying to do something better for myself, the government says, we don't care. You can't use our money to do that. Now, how ridiculous is that? This is unfair. And so basically, you're saying that people with disabilities aren't allowed to have the American dream. That's basically what you're saying. And this has nothing to do with who's in office and what party is in charge of the government's wallet. This has been this way for years, and I'm just now finding out about it. I will tell you that I hope this episode gets to someone in Congress, because then now's the time to make change. Because I'm being told that I cannot use my own Social Security money, which is the only income that I have. Mind you, if you guys been following me for a little bit on Nick Speaks, I've been told that I'm unemployable because of my disability, and that I, quote, have nothing that I can offer an employer. So, which means I am left to carve my own path. But in order for me to carve my own path, I have to find somebody to fund my business, because I can't use the only income I have to start my business. Now, that's great. I have a family member who's comfortable enough that they're able to help me with that. But what about all the other people with disabilities who don't have family, that are not fortunate enough to do that for them? Then they're stuck up a creek without a path. And this is not fair. It needs to change. You guys, I just read a statistic. I will be on a podcast next month. Somebody else invited me to be on their podcast. I'm so glad they did. That's why I give my email out every week. If you want me to come out on your podcast and talk about other disability issues and talk about my story, please email me like the last podcast did, and let me know that you would like to have me on as an interview. As an interviewee. My email is nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com if you want to have me on your podcast for future reference, or if you want to come be a guest on mine. But back to the statistic that I read. The statistic that I read is that 22% of disabled people from the Department of Labor, this statistic is from the Department of Labor, as of 2023, 22% of disabled people are gainfully employed. Why is that number so low? I'll tell you why it's so low. It's because the government has so much red tape, and they want to keep as many people on their dime as possible. Plus, we have employers who I think are afraid to step out onto the water and give people with disabilities a chance. My state, the state of Ohio, says they're an equal opportunity employer. Well, no, you're not, in my opinion. No, you're not, because I've been told that I'm unemployable and I have nothing that I can offer an employer. So I have been made to carve my own path. But wait, like I said, I can't use my Social Security money to do that. If I didn't have a family member that was willing to help me out and say, Nick, I will support you in whatever you want to do, I would be up a creek without a paddle. I would be up a creek without a paddle. And I dare say that there are many people with disabilities like that. So if there's anybody in Congress, if you know anybody in Congress that can get this episode of Nick Speaks to, please get it to them. Because not only does the whole thing about the benefits analysis needs to change, and it needs to be in language that everybody can understand. And the benefits analysis needs to reflect a person with a disability's dreams. It doesn't need to reflect, okay, here's what we can do to keep you on the system. Well, if that's not my dream, I want to look at what can we do to get me off the system? How much money do I need to make to do that? But no, the benefits analysis is totally towards keeping you poor and keeping you on the government dime. And what else needs to change as far as Social Security reform? I've talked about it before. We have those of us that are on Social Security have a savings cap. We are not allowed to have anything over $2,000 in assets in our savings accounts, in our checking accounts. We can't have any stocks, bonds, mutual funds in the amount of $2,000, which is probably not even true, because if we make over 65,000 in that bond, or if we make over $65 in that bond, sorry, I'm talking a little too fast today, then we probably have to report that to Social Security as well. And I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying. So there was a bill last year in Congress that was supposed to go forward in Congress. It was going to raise that limit up to $10,000 that we could have in our checking account and bonds and, stocks and all that stuff. And it was going to eliminate the marriage penalty for people with disabilities. That bill, for whatever reason, died in Congress. I don't even think it made it to the Senate or the House floor last year. I think it may have died in Congress, or died in what do they call those things? Conferences or whatever you call them. I need to brush up on my politics a little bit. But yeah, I mean, things like this need to change. We want the American dream to be available. We want the American dream to be available for everyone, so we say, but when it comes to people with disabilities, we're going to put so much red tape in front of people with disabilities and say, yeah, you want to start your own business, you want to make your life better, but you can't do it on your own dime. You can't do it on our dime. Sorry. How is that helpful? Ronald Reagan said the scariest words that the federal government could ever say to you is, I'm from the federal government. I'm here to help. And I sincerely believe that's true, because the government is only invested in their best interest. They're not invested in the interest of the people, especially with people with disabilities. If they can get away with, giving people with disabilities a volunteer job or giving them underpaid work, then that's fine. They're going to do that. But that shouldn't be fine. And that's not what we, as people with disabilities, should settle for, ever. So yeah, I'm a Christian, and I've said that many times on this podcast. But by the end of my benefits analysis this week, I was done for. I was like, I'm going to have to stop doing my podcast. I'm going to have to stop my whole public speaking dream. I'm going to, I'm just telling you guys, I'm a Christian, but I'm also human. And this really affected me this week, because I felt like everything I try to do, every hoop that I try to jump through, there's another roadblock that the state government or the federal government has put in my way. And it just gets exhausting advocating for something so simple as, hey, I want a job. I want to contribute to society. I want to be a taxpayer. I want to get off the government shoestring and try to own the shoe factory, as I've said to you guys many times within the past couple of weeks. And when you try to do that, the government makes it damn near impossible. And my thing is, this is why I'm here. Yes, I got discouraged, and yes, I even told myself I may not even record a podcast this week. But then I realized this is why the Nick Speaks podcast is here. The Nick Speaks podcast is here to speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. And this is exactly why I'm doing this episode today, is because we need to stand up as a disabled community, figuratively speaking, stand up and say, we deserve better treatment as it pertains to not really better treatment. We deserve better resources as it pertains to employment and wanting to be self-employed. And you know what? Maybe our local governments need to step in and give employers perks and say, you know what? If you really give these people a chance, we'll, I don't know, we'll give you a tax break. I know that sounds horrible, but as of right now, I am so desperate to become gainfully employed that, you know, if state governments came to employers, legitimate employers, I'm not talking about like, Goodwill, where they allegedly put things, put people in the background with disabilities and say, here, you can fold clothes in the back, where they're not made, and, where people with disabilities are not seen in the front. I'm not talking about that. And this is not a campaign against Goodwill. I just haven't heard good things about them. And they may be a really good company. So FYI, I don't know, but I haven't heard good things about them. So I'm just going off of what I heard. But anyway, if people with disabilities will stand up and say, it is time for us to get the respect that we deserve as far as getting employment, as far as getting real gainful employment and getting a real wage, and not being okay with being paid below minimum wage, then it's time for us to do that. And there's no time like the present, because there's huge shakeup in Washington right now. And there's a whole bunch of things going on. The Department of Doge is cutting a bunch of things. There's a lot of investigation going on in Washington right now. And I feel that one of the things they should investigate in is get that statistic from the Department of Labor. 22% of people with disabilities are employed. That is up 2023. Why is that statistic so low? That is something that I would like the current administration to look into. Why are people with disabilities not given a chance? Why are people told, we know that your government check is the only thing you have, but unfortunately you can't start a business with that? Why are people with disabilities being told that? Why are people with disabilities being constantly held back to accomplish their dreams? So that is something that I would like this current administration to look into. Yeah, but I just wanted to tell you guys my experience with the benefits analysis this week, and I will be honest. It is brutal. Get ready for your head to explode. There's going to be a lot of it that you don't understand, but here's one thing I understand. That benefits analysis is designed to keep you on the government assistance, in my opinion, forever. It really is. Now, I'm not saying that when you start making your first paycheck, you want to go off your government assistance immediately. No, you don't want to jump into uncharted waters. But I'm saying there needs to be an end game. Okay, when you make this much money, this is how much your insurance will decrease, or this is how much your Social Security SSI will decrease or blah, blah, blah. But $65 is barely a drop in the bucket. And it needs to change. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Nick Speaks Today. Don't be afraid to speak up, speak out, and speak loud. And about the issues that matter to you the most as a disabled person. And I will see you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.